يحيد الأخ اليحيد يحيد الأخ اليحيد يحيد الأخ.
Good evening. So glad to see all of you here. We're very honored to have Dr. Ibrahim Oweiss with us this evening to talk about his book. I just wanted to give a little background of Dr. Oweiss. He's a professor of economics at Georgetown University School of Foreign Service in Qatar. He is an educator and an international economic advisor. He joined the faculty of the Department of Economics at Georgetown University in 1967 after having served on the faculty of the University of Minnesota and Western Maryland College. In 1997 to 98, Dr. Oweiss was a visiting professor of economics at Harvard University. In addition, Dr. Oweiss is the honorary chairman of the Council on Egyptian-American Relations, which he founded in 1999. For a brief time, Dr. Oweiss was an advisor to former President Jimmy Carter after having left office in 1983, and was one of the professors of President Bill Clinton, who I believe wrote the introduction to his book. Dr. Oweiss authored over 50 scholarly publications, among which were Petrodollar Surpluses, Arab Civilization, The Political Economy of Contemporary Egypt, and in a pioneering work on oil revenues, he coined the terms petrodollars and hostage capital. The Oweiss demand curve was first presented at Oxford University. In addition to other national and international honors, former Egyptian President Anwar Sadat awarded Dr. Oweiss with Egypt's Order of Merit, First Class. Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth sanctioned his admission to the Order of St. John. In addition, he holds the Grand Cordon of the Order of Muhammad Ali Pasha and the Knight of the Order of the Queen of Sheba. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Oweiss.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Let me first start by thanking Mrs. Ines Al-Hanafi, who had been instrumental in getting me here to speak. I spoke at universities in all of the 4 continents of the of the world, except Australia. This is the only continent that I have not been there, and therefore I did not talk there. But this is my first time that I'm speaking at Montgomery College, and I'm delighted that I'm here, even though this campus is not far away from where I live in Kensington, Maryland. And I always see it when I drive on the horrendous Rockville Pike with all the traffic on it. But I always feel comfortable. I always feel safe when I am in a campus. There is something about education, about learning, that had been with me ever since I was a young boy. I was frail. I could not really play sports, so I devoted my time to reading. I read most of the classics in the 3 languages that I know, Arabic, English, and French, and the translation thereof of other great classics from the great writers in Russia. I was amazed at the way that they described Anton Chekhov and others. It was fascinating to me. When I came to the United States 52 years ago, I landed in New York, but I flew to Washington, D.C., and the first thing that I went was Library of Congress. I feel safe amongst books, amongst man's knowledge. And I went to the largest collection of any library in the world, that's the Library of Congress, with the millions of books, manuscripts, original, and copies of Magna Carta and others. It was fascinating to me. I bowed to man's knowledge because what was in the Library of Congress, even though the largest university, the largest collection in the world, is nothing compared to man's knowledge. So I bowed to man's knowledge, and I felt the humility by walking in the stacks of books, manuscripts, and others. And that humility had been with me ever since, no matter whom I talked to. I talked to many, many presidents. I served with many other leaders of the world. But it was always fascinating to be in the majesty of knowledge. And that majesty of knowledge is something fascinating to me. When I came to the United States, I didn't want to fly because I had always thought that Egypt is the past, Europe is the present, and the United States is the future. And therefore, I didn't want to jump from the past to the future in few hours in the plane coming to New York. I'd rather take it slowly, and I took a ship from Alexandria to Naples for across the Mediterranean, and then from Naples, I took another ship, transoceanic, huge ship, and I saw the poor Italians, refugees, coming into that boat, and they were sleeping in bunkers close to the machines because this is all what they can afford. My ticket was all right, has a good class, but I tipped the purser, and he gave me a first class cabin, which was very nice. I enjoyed that trip very much. And I couldn't believe that this huge city floats on the ocean after we crossed Gibraltar into the Atlantic Ocean. There was a storm, and I always have known that I've always observed that waves roll over, but not in the middle of the ocean. When it is rough, a body of water will go all the way up, carrying the ship to the tip. And then all of a sudden, it subsides, and we go down to a valley, as if we're going to hit the bottom of the ocean. And we see water on the right-hand side and water on the left-hand side. it was like a cigarette floating in the ocean at that time. I went to the University of Minnesota, and coming all the way from Egypt and going to Minnesota, that is courage in itself, because we've never ever witnessed such cold weather in my life. I witnessed the cold sun. I look at from a window, and there was sun walking out. It is 30 degrees below zero. You can hardly can walk, and everybody is covered and having ear muffs and covering all of the faces except something for the eyes. So I managed to live there, and I discovered all of the tunnels at the University of Minnesota to avoid walking in the street. I finished my degree, which I'd started a long time before, in '61, and I started teaching at the University of Minnesota in 1961. And I've been teaching in higher institutions of learning ever since. I retired in 2002 from Georgetown University. When I decided to retire, I sent a note to President Leo O'Donovan of the university, and I said, "Dear Leo, professors go through 5 stages in their lives: tireless, tiring, tiresome, tired, and then retired." And even though I was still tireless, but it was time to retire, he wrote back and he told me, "I loved it, and I'm going to do the same," and he retired the same year as I did. I was elected on the Board of Regents at Georgetown University, and this was the first time in the history of the Board of Regents that a former professor serves on that Board of Regents. And during 3-year tenure, the president of the university, who was a former student of mine, Jack DeJoya, came to me and said, "Qatar wants to establish a branch out there in Qatar. We cannot go without you. I need 2 things from you, is to try to convince the people on the Board of Regents that it's good to have a campus 7,000 miles away from here. And the second is to come back." I said, "As far as the first one is concerned, I'd be delighted to do it. The second, I would do it in 2 conditions. I don't want to be a dean. I don't want to be an administrator. I love to teach." And then, and therefore, I told him, I will be going there when the first class we admit in 2005 graduates in 2009, and then I retire again. And and I have never really retired. I don't know what retirement is. I'm always active. I'm always participating in conferences. I'm always interested in debates. I'm always interested in exchanging views and ideas with other people. I've never forgotten the time after September 11 that I was traveling to Harvard. I was giving a lecture there. And at the airport in Washington, D.C., I was stopped. After we checked in, as I was going into the plane. So I told them, why are you stopping me? We've already cleared. He said, you don't ask questions. Yes, sir. As if I was before a Hitler regime or something of the sort. And the second police officer was kinder. He came to me, he said, I'm sorry, but we have to do it because your middle name is Muhammad. I was singled out to go through the machines again because my middle name was Muhammad. That really affected me. And I was an old man, and I still am, and I can't get any younger. So, and I'm well-dressed, as I always, I like to be well-dressed because I think that people owe it to others to have nice dresses, and people would see one another in a good form. So I couldn't be someone can can have a bomb or something of this sort. Not on my age, and I was traveling first class. So it was amazing that experience affected me. It also affects me very much to know how ignorant people in the United States are concerning other parts of the world. In Pinellas County in Florida, that's the Pinellas County that helped really Bush to barely make it and become the president for the second term. I conducted a research questionnaire, and I hired and I paid some of the students there to collect the data for me. And I was amazed at the answers. 80% of the people there, of that sample, knew nothing about the Arab world. I asked a question, is Egypt an Arab country? The answer was no, most of them. Then the following question, what is it then? The answer was pharaonic. Is there a peace treaty between Israel and Egypt? 52% said no. So it's amazing that in spite of all of the embassies, in spite of all of the media, but we lack the basic understanding of other parts of the world. I am very proud to be speaking today in this Heritage Month, the Arab American Heritage Month at Montgomery College. It is a move in the right direction, and I hope that it is to be copied in many other parts of the world. What gave me an idea to write this book is the fact that I came from Egypt, an old country, I'm very proud of to have been born in Egypt. I am very proud of my heritage, in spite of the fact that there are many problems, in spite of the fact that there had been regression in education, in health care, and many other facets of life there. But yet, I always say that if a person goes from one culture to another, and if he or she wants to grow, she or he has to be proud of the roots, because without the roots, you cannot grow. You cannot branch out. I've written many books and pamphlets and so on and so forth. But this particular book means a lot to me because it's the history of my life. It's a tale of two cultures, the culture in which I was born and raised, and the culture in which I have been living since 1960, 52 years. The contrast, the amazing things I learned about the two cultures. There are aspects that I learned for the first time when I came to the United States. In Egypt, there is a tremendous bureaucracy that was initiated by the British since they invaded Egypt in 1882. And they have to create a hierarchy of steps. And you cannot get a license without so many different stamps. And when you go to the person, the official, in the final analysis, you say, well, come tomorrow. Come another day. When I went to the University of Minnesota and I registered, the girl told me, the first question was me, what can I do for you, sir? What can I do for you? I've never heard that before. Because the officials there in Egypt, oh, come tomorrow. Not only that, but the amazing organization. She knelt down, she picked up a package of letters that were sent to me. By the time I came to the United States, it was almost a month. So throughout this month, letters had been coming and accumulating at the University of Minnesota, and had it at that particular person. Organization was amazing. And it is because of this organizational ability and the entrepreneurial talents of the United States, the country had reached the level that it has reached. This does not mean we have problems here in this country. There are so many problems, and I'm not going to talk about those problems. The racial discrimination, it's still here. There's no doubt about it. I was in North Carolina at a major conference, and there was someone sitting next to me, in front of us, a copy of the Washington Post with Michelle Obama before the election. So I turned to him and I told him, what do you think of this lady to be the First Lady of the United States. He said, God forbids no. And I said, because she's black? He said, you said it, I did not. It is dormant there. So there are problems. And I'm aware of those problems. And I lived, and I am very proud as an American. I am very proud as an Egyptian to look into those problems positively and with recommendations of how to overcome those problems. And I have contributed to that quite a bit. There is something named after me. When I was teaching at Harvard, I came up with a concept borrowed from Newton. Sir Isaac Newton came up with a very famous law. Every action has a reaction, opposite in direction and equal in force. Very great applications in sciences. But I looked into that law and I said, there is something missing there. How about social sciences? In social sciences, I said, every action has a reaction, not necessarily opposite in direction, and not necessarily equal in force. It could be really devastating in one way or another. I consider World War I and World War II as one war, with an interruption of 20 years of peace. This was all precipitated by a killing of a prince from Austria, one person. Look at the accumulation of reactions that happened after that. I walked in my class at Georgetown when I came in from Minnesota in 1967, 68. And there was a young man by the name of William Jefferson Clinton. I never knew at that time that he would be president of the United States. This was right after, shortly after the 1967 war that the Israelis waged against Egypt. And there was the chief of staff of the Israelis. He was one-eyed person. I'm sorry? Moshe Dayan. I passed a sheet of paper to the students to write their names. And of course, I'm always proud of saying my name. I'm from Egypt, and I did not apply for American citizenship at that time, but I applied afterwards. And I got the list of the students, and I was reading them to know who they are. And someone wrote Moshe Dayan, just to appease me, just to give me a hard time. So I erased the blackboard, which was international economics, and I wrote the Arab-Israeli conflict. And I gave a whole lecture on the Arab-Israeli conflict. And I said, this is the last time I'm going to talk about the subject, because as of next time, we will be talking about the subject matter of this course. Bill Clinton remembered that. And he told me this was the first time ever that he had heard the Arab-Israeli conflict from another point of view, which was completely different from what I learned in the past. I mingled with the society. I had an impact on the society. I learned from the society. Give and take. And I'm very proud to be an American. This book is a product of my personal account that I thought I would share with others, with whoever wants to learn about my background. And the publisher told me, every time we print, it's gone. Every time we print, it's gone. So it is moving. People pick them up. And I'm very proud of that, that I can have an impact on the readers. I'm happy to be here to speak before you, and I would like very much to leave some time for questions and answers and comments, if you have any. Thank you.
الأخ اليحيد يحيد الأخ اليحيد يحيد